Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. I'm Jeremy Karp, and it is a great pleasure here this evening to be here. Thank you all so much for tuning in wherever you may be, at home, at work, on the road, although be careful out there because the roads are kind of icy out here in Missouri, especially in South Missouri, so please be careful out there. Don't be changing the channels, texting, all that crazy stuff. But nevertheless, folks, this is a dream come true for me. I am very excited, and we're going to get right into it because tonight, he's not just a 12-year veteran of the NFL. He's also an activist, and he has had so many charitable causes and has given back to the community his entire adult life. It is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome to Roundabout Sports somebody who I consider a friend, the one, the only, Tyoka Jackson.
Jeremy, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, Tyoka? It's so great having you on. Thank you.
Oh, man, look, it's my pleasure, man. Activists, boy, I apologize to all the real activists out there. I'm not a real activist. I just, there's a couple things I believe in and love and passionate about. But Jeremy, it's a pleasure to be on with you, man. I remember when you was just a snotty little kid reaching out to me, man, and look at you now. You got your own show, your own podcast, man. I mean, it's a good look for you, bro. I'm proud of you.
Much love, man. Thank you so much. It means so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I remember sending you articles about whether we should have the NBA or soccer in St. Louis and everything, and you would just tell me keep up the good work and everything. So thank you.
Right. That's right. You're a testament to it, man. You started from the bottom, and now look at you. You're here, man. I mean, shout out to Drake for giving me the line, but you living it right now.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So how have you been lately? How have things been going with you?
Well, I mean, you'll never catch me complaining, first of all, but we coming out of this pandemic, man. The whole world is starting to emerge, I think, showing some light at the end of the tunnel. So people are cautiously optimistic, and I would put myself there, cautiously optimistic. Business has been tough over the last couple of years, but like I said, you won't catch me complaining because there are a lot of businesses that are closed that will never open again. And so I'm happy that we're still around, still fighting a good fight. And, my Rams just won the Super Bowl, and Tampa won the Super Bowl before that. So, I'm good, man. I'd like to see us have a little more representation in terms of coaching, have more African-American coaching on all levels. But I feel good about the state of my former teams, where they are. And so I just need my Wizards, man, and my Washington Wizards to get going. I'm a huge basketball fan, and right now they're kind of spinning their wheels. But other than that, man, I cannot complain. Got healthy kids. So that's really all about it.
That's what I love to hear. My cousin, Abe Poland, he was the owner of the Wizards for so long. So I remember being there at the Verizon Center for his 80th birthday back in 2003. God, this feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, their Wizards are one of my teams too, especially for Bradley Beal, St. Louis guy. Gotta love. Always cheering on the locals, I tell you.
Absolutely, man.
I didn't even think about it when you had mentioned that not only, of course, the Rams winning the Super Bowl this year, but last year the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. And, of course, those were, of all the teams in your career, those were the two most notable ones that you were part of. You were also part of the Lions and Miami Dolphins.
That's right. Just one each for 1 year each for Miami on the front year of my career. And then on the back end of my career, 1 year in Detroit. And so sandwiched between there was 2 stops, 5 years apiece, first in Tampa and in St. Louis. And so, in Tampa is where I learned how to really be a player, how to play the game. I was fortunate enough to be around a coaching staff that was just tremendous people, great men and leaders, and also great teachers of the game. I mean, you look at just our defensive staff was unbelievable. Tony Dungy being our head coach, right? One of the great defensive minds of our era. Obviously a Hall of Famer, Hall of Fame coach. And then, I had Monty Kiffin, whose son, Lane is coaching in college football in the SEC. But Monty, one of the more respected defensive coordinators ever, was our D coordinator. We had Herm Edwards was our defensive back coach. Lovie Smith was our linebacker coach, right? And these are 2 NFL head coaches
Gotta
God.
love. Whew.
And then Rod Marinelli was our defensive line coach, and he really taught me how to play the game of football in the NFL. And he's one of the better defensive line coaches, if not the greatest defensive line coach to ever live. You look at the people he tutored. You're talking Hall of Fame type guys, Warren Sapp, Simeon Rice, and the list goes on. And he's still doing it out in Vegas. So, I learned the game from Rod. Taught me a tremendous amount. That entire staff I learned a lot from, and so really, really became a player there. I just unfortunately was sitting behind, one of the greatest defensive tackles of all time is Warren Sapp. So I just didn't play as much as I wanted to. But in terms of learning the game, that's really where I learned the game and began to become a player.
You had mentioned Lovie Smith among that amazing coaching staff, and Lovie was always one of my favorite coaches, especially when he was on the Rams in the mid 2000s.
Right.
And recently, he had actually just been hired as the new head coach of the Houston Texans.
Yes, shot him a text when he got the job. Absolutely.
I was going to say, what does that mean to you having I know there's a lot of controversy going around the NFL regarding representation of Black head coaches, and I wanted to know what you were thinking on once you found out about Lovie Smith's hire.
Well, first of all, I was happy for him and his wife, personally, just because, black, white doesn't matter. To get a job in the NFL is really hard. It's only 32 of them, right? I mean, it's only 32 of all the people on the planet, the billions of people on the planet. There's only 32 available, or not even available, 32 jobs, right? And it's only a couple available every year. So initially, I was just, again, happy for he and his wife and his family to get that job, because I know he wanted to be an NFL head coach again. We had spoken, probably about a year and a half ago through text when he was let go at the University of Illinois, and I was just checking in with him to see how he was doing and see what his thoughts were. And he was talking about getting back in the NFL, and then he got hired to be the coordinator with the Texans. So happy for him. And then also start thinking about the culture, and how, this is a good step in the direction. Obviously, 2 black head coaches in the NFL, simply not enough. I want to say total 3 or 4 of color, maybe. When you look at here in Washington, his name's escaping me right now. The head coach in Washington is Latino.
Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna forget him. Great former Bears linebacker, but it's just not enough. We've got over 70% of the NFL is made up of players of color, and to only have 3% or 10% be people of color in terms of representation on the sidelines and head coaching jobs. It's just not enough. And then to see people in position to be head coaches not get jobs. When you look at Byron Leftwich, who has won a Super Bowl as a coordinator, who is a play caller, who has worked with the greatest quarterback of all time. You're telling me that there's nothing he can offer as a head coach to any team? He played for Jacksonville, and to not get hired there in Jacksonville after coming out of the debacle that they had with their former head coach that they had to get rid of, and to not hire him, which would have been a great choice for him coming back to one of his homes where he played in the league. Just makes no sense to me. Eric Bieniemy, who has been the offensive coordinator for one of the greatest offenses of all time, and continues to do that in Kansas City, and gets lauded by everybody who he coaches, including Mahomes, and including his boss, Andy Reid, and continues to not get jobs. And you see other guys who were not play callers, but manning the offensive coordinator position getting hired, white guys. And it's visually insulting. It insults my intelligence. And it's like, I love this league and I love the game, but man, like, what are we going to do? So you just got to keep talking about it and keep bringing it up, because it's unfair. And I'm glad you brought it up too, because it's everybody on all fronts. It doesn't have to be talked about on ESPN, on the shows. It can also be talked in forums like this, where it's less formal and more conversational, because the topic is real and it's here until it gets squared away.
Absolutely. Because I feel like when Brian Flores brought out the fact that he feels like he was And I definitely wanted to get your thoughts on that as well. But when he brought out the lawsuit against the NFL, Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross, he basically put his career on the line. But he knew that was the case. He knew, look, I'm taking on a multi-billion-dollar football league, which honestly is the biggest sport in America, one of the biggest in the world, knowing that. But he feels like, much like you feel, and honestly, that there's just not enough representation of
Correct.
black head coaches in the National Football League.
Yeah.
I really thought Byron Leftwich was going to get a head coaching job this offseason. And as happy as I am for Eric Bieniemy to be on the Chiefs still, he's probably one of the most deserving guys of getting a head coaching job.
When's last time, coordinator have a string of amazing offense year after year after year, not get a shot?
Right.
Like, when's the last time you seen it? Like, I've never seen it. I've never seen this long string of unbelievable offense. And I mean, Mike Martz, my former head coach, he put together 2 years of unbelievable offense. In fact, I think just one. Now, obviously, the job opened up quickly with Coach Vermeil stepping down. But still, I mean, he did it for 1 year as a coordinator, and he had toiled in the league. Don't get me wrong. He had paid his dues, but he got it so quickly because obviously Coach Vermeil stepped down, but it was a natural choice. It made complete sense, right? And so, I mean, you're looking at Eric Bieniemy like, why? Okay, so some people say, well, he wasn't, he's not the play caller. Andy Reid makes the plays, calls the plays. Well, I can't remember his name, but the gentleman who just got hired to fill the last job, it was in the same situation where he is not the play caller, and yet he's now a head coach because he was around winning. He's designing the plays. He's coaching the quarterbacks. Same thing with Eric Bieniemy. So yeah, I mean it's insane. And to Brian Flores, I thought Brian Flores when he filed the lawsuit, I looked at him as the Colin Kaepernick of coaching. I thought he fell on the sword. I thought that was the end for him. And I'm really proud of the league and the Steelers for making sure that wasn't the end. But it doesn't surprise me at all that the Steelers organization are the ones who stepped up. Because as I posted, and I'm sure you saw, on my various social media platforms, that you can check me out at Ty Knows Football, over Twitter and Instagram. But it didn't shock me at all that the Steelers did it, because it seems to me that the only club consistently following the Rooney Rule is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are owned by the Rooneys. So it doesn't shock me at all. He got hired to Pittsburgh. So, and again, I'm proud of Pittsburgh for doing that. And I'm really proud for Brian Flores for putting his career on the line, his life-changing career for what's right, for doing what's right, and speaking up about, what he sees and his injustice, and speaking his truth. Because again, that's the only way folks who don't live in our skin will know. We have to raise the awareness. I wouldn't expect you to know what the average black man goes through. You wouldn't expect me to not know what you go through. And I don't know what the average white guy goes through. I don't. And so that's why these conversations have to be had. And sometimes they're very uncomfortable. But imagine if they're uncomfortable to talk about, imagine living through racism and racial discrimination. Believe me, it's a lot worse than the conversation.
Yeah, I have a friend who actually has been told multiple times that he doesn't know what it's like, and he's black, and he doesn't know what it's like growing up a certain way. And he would tell them, well, you don't know what it's like growing up my way, like, and the struggles that he's gone through in his life and the hurdles he's had to face. And, I love the comparison.
Jeremy, I would just say this, that everybody's struggle isn't always defined by their race, meaning, black people's experience in America isn't monolithic. It's not like every black person goes through the same experience. No, it doesn't work that way. Every black person doesn't get inundated with racism every single day. And, every white person isn't a racist. So, I mean, right. Most aren't. You know what I'm saying? So everybody has their experiences. It's just that when certain things happen that are wrong, we've got to talk about it. Because that's the only way the wrong doesn't get repeated and the wrong gets righted.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier the Rooney Rule, which, like I said, ironically is used by the Rooneys, who own the Steelers. And for those that don't know at home, the Rooney Rule is a rule implemented in the NFL during a coaching search where, is required to interview a minority candidate first. Make sure you interview a minority candidate. Now, do you feel, Tyoka, that interviewing a minority candidate in some cases is just to fulfill that Rooney Rule? Or, some coaches, honestly, I feel like coaching minorities, whether it be Latino or Black or, Asian American, don't get sometimes a fair crack at a head coaching job. And as opposed to them just being the filler for that role. Like, do you feel that? Or I wanted to get your thoughts on the Rooney Rule in today's NFL.
Yeah, I certainly believe that when Mr. Rooney wrote the rule up, proposed it, and got it passed with the fellow league owners, that he had the best of intentions, because understanding the culture of coaching in the NFL, understanding the culture of front offices, the point was to get Black candidates in the circuit so that you can start to then make sure they get interviewed, and then GMs begin to get comfortable with knowing more of them, keeping them in their subconscious at the very least, so that when jobs become available, hey, I really heard this guy did a nice interview over there. Or I remember interviewing him a couple years ago when I was with Team X, and he's still now in the league. He's moved up now. Maybe I should reach out to him again, because it's very much about talking to people you're comfortable with. There's a lot of paranoia in the NFL. And so people like to surround themselves with people they know and trust, or know people that know them. Right. And so they're either known firsthand, or they're one or two spots removed where people can vouch for them. But the only way to get into that culture and have that happen is to make sure that coaches of color get into the door and start speaking to more of the folks who are making the decisions. Because not only is just the general manager in the room, or just the team president, there's also the assistant general manager, and there's also the director of player personnel, or whomever. And so it's usually a panel of guys. Right. When one guy maybe went from being, the director of player personnel, and now he's the GM at another team 3 years later. And he thought he was really impressed by a coach of color who was in the interview process over at the other team. That was the idea. That's the spirit of it. Right. But yes, now it's really apparent that it has just become something that we have to check off, a box that we have to check off. We're going to do what we do. We're going to hire who we want to hire, which is, unfortunately, usually not someone of color, but we got to get this checked off, because we're not trying to get fined, right?
Right.
We're not trying to get caught. We're not trying to have a bad PR debacle on our hands. So we got to get the minority coach in, and that's kind of what was detailed with Brian Force's his lawsuit. He talked about the Denver Broncos doing just that. Mm-hmm. He talked about sharing an email from Coach Bill Belichick, in which apparently the Giants did just that. They had their guy chosen all along, but let's go ahead and bring Flores in so we can check this Rooney Rule off.
Exactly.
Not get in trouble and keep it moving. So it's unfortunate. Look, the Rooney Rule was supposed to do the best. It was the best intentions, and now we got to find a way to make the system better, because unfortunately, when you want to get around a rule, you work day and night to figure out the best way to get around it. And that's exactly what the league has done, unfortunately.
Do you think because of the way teams are now able to work their way around the Rooney Rule, do you feel like the NFL is going to step in and do some type of revision? If there's even a possible revision, because look, you can't force them to hire any coach of any, because you shouldn't hire a coach based on race, religion, gender. You need to hire a coach based on the best that they have and their abilities, and the team and the coach that you feel can help best lead your team to a championship.
That's the way it's supposed to
me the top qualification that a coach should have.
Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to work.
And it's right. And it's unfortunate that, it seems like that's not what the case is turning out to be. And first off, kudos to Mike Tomlin, because look, coaching 16 years and never have a losing record. I mean, just blows my mind. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm a Browns fan. So to have to deal with that,
right.
It is what it is, but I respect it. But no, I feel like I agree completely when you said the rule was made with the best intentions. But at some point, at some generation, there was a way to where owners found a way around it. It's like a contract. Every contract has a loophole. Well,
Mm-hmm.
every rule has a way it can be broken, but
Mm-hmm.
not completely broken.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where we're at right now. And I'm wondering if it's even possible for the NFL to revise it because, like I said, you can't force anybody to be hired. You
That's
can
right.
just and that's honestly the only problem I do have with the Rooney Rule, because I feel like it's unfortunate to be at the point to where in 2022 coaches of minorities, or female coaches are required to be interviewed when it should honestly be a given that they deserve to be interviewed. That's how
That's
I
right.
look at it.
I agree with you. It is. It's think about the idea that the owners had to come up with a rule to police their own racial discrimination. Like they had to create a rule to force themselves not to discriminate based on race. So that's crazy in and of itself. But that's what happened. That's what the rule was created for. Because
That is very
we
true.
don't create this rule, we're just not going to be able to get this done. Okay, they created a rule. We're still not able to get this done, and the reason is because you can't legislate someone's heart. You can't. I cannot make a rule to make you see me for what I am, and that's what we're dealing with. So I think so to answer your question directly, do I think the league's going to tweak it? I don't know that there is a tweak. I don't know that there's a stroke of a pen that can alleviate this problem. But I do have an idea what could alleviate the problem, and that
Okay.
is representation in the owner's box. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to wake up, in my opinion, every day with how do I get the black community to advance in this country on the forefront of your mind? Because you're not a part of our community. Why would that be at the top of your mind? Right. And I apologize if you are a part of the community. I don't know that I don't think you're a part of our community, right?
No, I was born in the country of Georgia, so
Okay.
technically I'm
Okay.
Eurasian. So
Okay. All right. So you're someone of color, but you're not African
yeah,
American. So you don't have. I don't expect you to have my culture on your mind every single
right.
day when you wake up. You, I've got it on my mind every day.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do to help advance my culture and my people to be further along than they were yesterday? I don't expect the average white guy to wake up with the same mindset as me. I don't expect a woman shouldn't expect me to have women's rights and issues on the forefront of my mind. So I need her to remind me. I need women to tell me, hey, this is what's going on and this isn't right. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. So that's my cause. And that's a lot of people who look like me. That's our cause. So my point is, if you put someone who's African American in the owner's box, then maybe there's a chance with some of these issues with diversity, equity, and inclusion begin to get solved that way, surely one at a time. And I'm not just talking about one, because then that's tokenism. And then, I mean, what are we doing there? I think there should be real representation in the owner's box. The owner's boxes of the NFL should look like America. It should be multicultural. It should be multi-gendered, right? And then you would see all of this stuff go away. No one's talking about how we need more black quarterbacks in the NFL anymore, because eventually over time, people stopped caring about who was the trigger man in terms of his color. They wanted the best guy for the job, right? Eventually, one day, this won't be an issue. But I want it right now. I don't want it after I'm dead. As a former player, I want that to happen right now. And the quickest way to make it happen right now is diversify the owner's box, right? Then you will see diversification happen quicker, because I'm selfish. I don't want it to happen. I don't want my kids to be having the same conversation. Just call me crazy. I want equity now.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we're at this point to where it's still an issue. You would think, like, just for an example, like go back to the days of Marion Motley, Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Floyd Little. The amount of racism and hurdles they had to deal with back
Which
then.
is a lot worse than what we're dealing with now.
Right.
Not more overt. Yeah.
But the fact that it's still a fight, the fact that it's, like that never ending battle. And for me, for you, it's being a part of the Black community. For me, it's actually being a part of the Jewish community because of me being Jewish. And I've dealt with anti-Semitism before. People or members of my family, generation above, dealt with plenty of it. We lost family members in the Holocaust. So, it's that battle that you still wake up and you go to sleep dealing with.
Correct.
And, what you said about starting it up in the owner's box, to me, that would start a chain reaction. I think, though, they really got to buckle down on finding owners that are willing to diversify. Because right now, you got a bunch of stubborn old owners that like things the way they are, don't see the need for change. And I think the Brian Flores lawsuit exposes a lot, even if he doesn't win the lawsuit, as far as a financial way, he wins it on the basis of morality. He wins it because he exposes problems that still exist that should not exist. Because, I mean, what do we hear over the past couple years? The first female executive in the NFL, or the first female referee, first, Latino coach to lead them to the players. Yeah, or assistant coach, and things like of that nature. It's 2022.
Right.
So we should not be waiting this late for it,
Aren't you tired of it? I'm tired of it. I wish I never had to talk about it ever again. Like, that's the thing I would love for, I would say, average white America to know. Most of us would love never have to talk about it. I don't want to have to talk about it. I wish I didn't, because that means I got that's one less thing I have to worry about. I can cross that off, right? So I can really look at my kids in the eye and say, hey, you literally can do anything you want to, and know that it's real. I'm telling them that, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't know. You can do anything you want to, probably except for own an NFL team. You can probably do anything you want to, probably except for being an NFL coach for the most part. But I would love to be able to cross all of that off and not have to talk about it. But the truth of the matter is, this is a societal problem. It's just not the NFL. The NFL is made up of citizens of the United States. This is a United States problem. I remember having a conversation with my great uncle, my dad's uncle, who since passed away, Uncle Ben, man. Uncle Ben, I loved Uncle Ben. And Uncle Ben would talk about the old days. And he would talk about being in Northern Virginia and Alexandria and not making sure he didn't get caught in certain neighborhoods of Alexandria in broad daylight, because there was a police officer that if he caught a black man on his beat, he was going to grab you and beat you and tell you never to come get caught around here again. And so he said he came home because he was some young lady that happened to be living near an area where he had to go through the area. And he got caught a couple times by this, and he named him. I don't remember the guy's name, but he beat him a few times and came home bloody. That's the same stuff we're complaining about right now and marching about. And we're talking about the 40s. This was going on in the 40s and then the 30s. And here it is, like you said, almost 100 years later, 90 years later. And I mean, we're talking about the same stuff. So it's a societal problem that we haven't gotten fixed. One of the big reasons that we haven't got it fixed is because it makes so many people uncomfortable. No one really wants to talk about the problems and then talk about solutions. So there's talking about the problems and talking about the symptoms of the problem, but then you have to start talking about solutions. And so, again, I applaud you for having this conversation on a sports show, but sports are made up of individuals who live in this country. And so while a lot of people don't want to hear our sports figures talk about what's going on in the country, we're human beings. And matters of race permeate every single part of our country. It's woven into the fabric. And so we're compelled, most of us as athletes and former athletes are compelled to talk about what's going on off the court, because many folks show up and cheer and clap for us, and then they go home and they have a very different experience, or their family members and extended family members have very different experience. Because let's be honest about this, as an athlete, especially a pro athlete or high profile athlete, a lot of the things that affect our families don't affect us. So I don't catch what my nephew's catching, right? Who works a job 9 to 5. He's catching a little different experience than I'm catching myself. But I'm human and I'm empathetic to what he's going through, and so I want to talk about those things. And so, that's what it's about. It's about we got to fix and advance society, and the NFL will get drug along with it.
Now, I absolutely agree. And one more thing before we jump to some of the charitable things you've done and some of the community organizations you have formed over the course of your life. So recently, just about I believe a week or two ago, Michelle Tafoya, who was a longtime sideline reporter for Sunday Night Football on NBC, so it was a big part of NBC Sports. She recently came out and appeared on Fox News and made comments that, in regards to Colin Kaepernick, saying that, quote, if he wanted to be a quarterback, he would have still been one.
Yeah.
And, she went on to say about understanding like that he did what he did, but she felt like, because I think the biggest question a lot of people ask right now when it comes to Kaepernick is, did he get blackballed by the NFL for kneeling?
People still asking it. People still asking it.
Yeah, people are still asking, a guy who protested the national anthem for racial injustice suddenly just doesn't doesn't have a team to play for anymore.
Right.
Even though he's highly qualified. I mean, they went through so much hell just to get him back in the Madden video games.
Right.
But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that whole thought of him. If he wanted to be a quarterback, he would have still been one by now.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take. Miss Tafoya has. She's certainly, entitled to her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me question how much she really knows about the league she covered for so long. He kneeled for, as you said, for equal justice in the justice system, and for to protest police brutality. And he didn't do it. He did it by himself. He first sat, and after having a conversation with a former Green Beret, the Green Beret talked him into kneeling. And that seemed to be this offensive thing to all of these people who have taken it and turned it into something else, some sort of protest against the troops, which is insane. But anyway, and so a lot of those same folks who have sort of stolen the narrative of what Colin Kaepernick is doing or had done, has now come up with another narrative. Well, he's not in the league because A, he wasn't good enough, or he just didn't want to play the NFL anymore. And both of those are ridiculous from what I can tell. I don't know Colin. But I've watched the same scenario play out as everyone else, and I also know the league. And I've watched bums get signed ever since he took that knee. And let's not forget, he was a free agent that next year, and no one came calling. And this is a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, started in the Super Bowl. Did he not?
Yeah.
At least, yeah. And won an NFC championship game. Is he the greatest quarterback to ever play? No. Is he the best quarterback in the league? No. But again, look at some of the guys who got signed after he wasn't blackballed. Guys who were 3- and 4-time failures in the league, still getting signed, getting called when people got hurt. It's obvious for anyone who understands football, who understands how the game or how the league works, knows that the decision was made collectively, one way or another, that he was never going to play in the National Football League again. It's unfortunate that she has the view that she has, but she's entitled to have it, and she's entitled to speak on it as much as she wants. I and a lot of people who would be more of an expert on the league completely disagree with her.
Yeah, it definitely seems a very uninformative, and like I said, it's definitely her opinion.
Yeah.
I don't tell people not to express their opinions, but I just want people to make sure they know what they're saying, because A, context is everything, but B, knowing what you're speaking of and in comparison to yourself goes a long way. You know, there's certain things that you can have an opinion on, but if you speak on it, you're not going to have the true viewpoint that that person involved really does.
Correct. But
So
we see that all the time in our culture. Unfortunately, that's one of the more. I'm the old guy now. I just turned 50 a few months ago, and I catch up like an old man every now and then. And one of the things I catch up saying about that sounds very old is, in today's society. One of the things I'm most disappointed about is how folks who are not experts on any given subject are somehow given equal weight to espouse about a subject as the real experts. And I don't care, you pick it. I don't care what it is. We could be talking about dog training. We could be talking about the NFL. We could be talking about healthcare issues. We could be talking about science. We could be talking about computers, whatever it is. Just because you have one of these, like somehow you are an expert and you're able to make a 20 or 30-second video or 3-minute video and sort of garner as much attention as the real expert and go toe to toe with them on issues that you know nothing about. I mean, there are people right now who have millions of followers who haven't even graduated from college, but are making real crazy statements about, let's just say, the coronavirus, and people are listening, and it's very disappointing. And so that is the one thing with technology and open society and free access to media, social media. It is a true gift and a curse, because on one hand, it does bring us closer together, and it really can be informative and really can be sort of enhancement to our daily living, but also it gives a platform to people who need to not be talking about certain things. And it allows folks who are quote unquote crazy to really have an impact when they otherwise would not. Not that I'm saying Michelle Tafoya is crazy, because I'm not saying that.
No, I get that. No, I totally get that.
It's yeah.
Right. Like I said, it's all about the perspective where you come from on a certain issue, and it could be about anything, So I wanted to kind of shift gears here. I've talked about, especially in promoting this show, a lot about you giving back to the community, something you've done for a long time now. And no, I did not realize that you had just turned 50, but
I hope it's because I don't look it, man. But I see some gray, man.
I saw the Insta video of you working out, with the curls and everything. I'm just like, damn, he's still got it. Look at this guy go.
I'm just trying to fake it, bro. I'm trying to fake it till I make it, man.
So I wanted to bring up from in 1999, you brought up Tyoka's Troops. You created this foundation. I wanted to have you kind of talk a bit about it, because it's been around a long time and did a lot of service projects, but I feel like you can do more justice on it than I could just explaining about it.
Yeah, so it was something that I was trying to figure out how to become more impactful in the community I was playing. At this time I was playing in Tampa. And in fact, I was driving up to my alma mater, Penn State. So I was taking a drive and I was in the mountains, and I was just trying to figure it out, just driving and thinking. And a commercial came on the radio. And this is back when it was terrestrial radio, back when, before digital and satellite radio, and you got to sort of just turn the dial and find a little signal that you can find in the mountains. And it just happened to be a PSA about blood donation, and how the country at that time was in a national blood shortage, which I believe we still are now, partly because of the pandemic.
Yes.
But there was a shortage of blood, and they needed blood donors. And I began to think, you know what? I've never given blood in my entire life. And again, I'm driving up the mountains on my way to Penn State. I'm like, maybe there's a chance here that I can create some sort of initiative that would raise awareness about our national blood shortage, and if I can partner with some experts in the community, and maybe see if we can attack that. So I came back and huddled with our community outreach staff in Tampa, which was great because Tony Dungy was a huge part of what he believed in, and so they poured a lot of resources into that team. And I wish I could remember the folks' name that helped me out. I really do. It was multiple folks that sort of helped me create Tyoka's Troops, and we were able to partner with the Florida Blood Service and began to have blood drives. During the season, we had 4 of them, and it got an opportunity to enter a raffle to win tickets. I think I would buy, I want to say 15 or 20 tickets to every home game.
Oh wow!
And so it got really popular. We had people standing in line because of the popularity of the Bucks, not because of me, but the popularity of the Buccaneers. And this is when we began to rise out of perennial doormats to become a real power in the league under Tony Dungy's leadership, and the community was excited about it. And I leveraged that excitement to try to do some good. And I think that's what it's really all about. At the end of the day, you only got your money and your memories as a player. And other than that, there aren't going to be many people that's going to care about what you did on that field, and so the only way you can have a lasting impact, in my opinion, is to impact the community in which you played. And that's how you can endear yourself to the community, and that's how you can leave a mark. So, I still have a home in Tampa, and I love going back there. And people treat me with respect, I think in part because of some of the work we were able to do. And so we raised a lot of awareness, and the blood donorship in the Tampa Bay area increased tremendously. And when I signed with St. Louis, I brought the same program to St. Louis. And ironically, St. Louis had an annual blood drive that the team sponsored. Mm-hmm. And so they were thrilled that I was going to increase that. And I partnered with the one they already had, and I became the face of that blood drive that we had annually. But we'd have 3 more additional ones. And same thing there. And I also began to learn about blood donorship, donations, and what they do, how they impact people's lives. And I started to learn about sickle cell and how that disproportionately affects the African American community. I learned about people of color having problems finding blood that matches their what their needs are from a genetic standpoint. And so people of color needed to donate more to help ourselves out as it relates to treating blood cancers like sickle cell and others. And so, it was very informative to me. And I think we were able to raise awareness about these issues during those times. And I'm really proud of our work that we've done. And obviously, we were able to get people to the games. St. Louis was even hotter than Tampa. We were a Super Bowl team and a Super Bowl contender perennially for most of my time there. And so to get fans into that dome, it was a hot ticket. Hard to get those. That it was great to see those fans in those sections wearing the T-shirts, Tyoka's Troops, and all that. So yeah, it was. I'm really proud of what we were able to do.
It really showcases. I love the point you made about you can do only so much on the field as a player, because you're on, as in with life, you're on a clock,
right?
The clock of life, and of course when you're getting on the football field week in and week out, that kind of shortens careers get short, injuries happen, things pile up, so nothing in life is ever guaranteed.
That's right.
And that's one thing with Roundabout Sports and Interstate 70 Sports Media, I'm wanting to do is I'm trying to get more community involvement. I talked to a guy earlier this evening who is a part of United Way of Greater St. Louis. I'm going to try to get him on and, talk about what they're all about and ways to help out. On the Wrestle Talk podcast, I constantly, and my team members and the guys I work with, we help promote the National Suicide Hotline. It just feels like it's the right thing to do, if nothing else.
Yeah, I mean, because it's bigger than sport.
You do those things, and you don't really. Exactly. Yeah. No, sports is my life. It's been a big part of my life. I couldn't tell you where I'd be without sports. I've been playing football since I was like 7 years old. and I've played baseball, all kinds of sports, and ran track, but there's just something when you can put a smile on someone else's face, however that may be. And I know, and I love the fact that Tyoka's troops have been able to thrive in multiple cities. You said you started in Tampa, but of course you brought it with you to St. Louis when you joined the Rams.
Right.
And I believe that they had some involvement with Malcolm X Elementary School in DC. I believe there was some sort of incentive program.
So when we my dad, brother, and I are my partners. We opened the first IHOP ever in DC, and then we followed up with a second one. And so we're really proud about that. It's the first sit-down franchise in the history of Ward 8 DC, which is an area that is so often under invested and ignored. And so we were really proud to bring the first IHOP in the city ever to that neighborhood. But the same mentality, we just didn't want to exist and take from our own community. My dad grew up there. My brother was a police officer there for 30 years in that neighborhood. We wanted to have an impact on that neighborhood. And so, decided to get involved with Malcolm X Elementary in terms of trying to increase their or decrease their truancy, increase their attendance, and increase their reading. Got involved with Ballou High School in Southeast DC, went and visited their library, and just felt it wasn't good enough. It just was too many empty shelves. And we decided to create a wing of or dedicated a wing of the library to our IHOP business, and bought dozens of books involving personal finance and how to create wealth, how to build wealth, how to use your knowledge to pull yourself out of poverty, those sorts of things. I was really happy to be a part of that. Miss Jackson, they don't call them librarians anymore. I think they're called, oh man, I didn't forgot the name. She would be so disappointed in me right now. What's the new name for librarians? Anyway, she runs the library system. But yeah, she was great in working with us to get that done. So, again, the mentality is you're just not going to exist. You got to make an impact. And that's kind of something I developed when I was young, and I decided I wanted to go to Penn State, this big old school. I just didn't want to exist at the school. I wanted to make an impact. And then as I got older, what making an impact began to mature, what that meant began to mature. When I was young, I just wanted to make an impact on the field and be a player and be somebody that someone's going to remember. But as you get older, you begin to realize that making an impact, there are better ways. There are more impactful ways to make that impact. And so that's just been a mentality I've had since I was young. And, we're going to find a way to positively impact these communities that we go into one way or another.
It's so wonderful to hear. And yeah, you saved me the trouble from asking about the IHOP franchises. That was one thing I definitely knew, that you had opened up the first and second in the 8th Ward. So one more, first off, I also believe, and shoot, I'm probably wrong, I think it's either like media specialists or information professionals is what they've been starting to call librarians these days. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it's media. I think you might be right. Media coordinator or media specialist. I think that's ringing a bell to me. Yes. So
yeah. Again, so that Jackson, seems like it.
I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I know that's an old reference. All right, but hip hop heads know about what I'm talking about. The Outkast, shout out to Outkast. But I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. I'm sorry for getting it wrong. But yeah, she is a tremendous asset over at Ballou High School.
So when you were in St. Louis, you were chosen as the defensive captain from 2003 to 2005. You were the local media's go-to guy award, given to the best interviewer in 2004. Right. You were named captain in perpetuity. Yeah, I can't even say the word right.
Perpetuity. Yeah, it was tough for me. I never even heard the word. Yeah, and I never heard a word until Mark. So.
Right. You were a member of the St. Louis Rams 10th anniversary team and have been ranked as one of the St. Louis Rams top 10 all-time best free agent signings.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know, and whether you even knew all that or not, and I'm sure you did, what does it mean
Oh,
to
you know I
you?
did.
Well, you've done so much, you never know. Something could just slip by.
Right.
um, what does it mean to you? Because you, like I said, you made so many stops as far as teams. You've had such impactful careers and moments at Penn State, in Tampa Bay. You even did work in Detroit, in St. Louis. Everything you do in your hometown of Washington, D.C. What did it mean to you receiving all those types of awards and recognition from not even so much just the team, but the fans in St. Louis, who to me are some of the most loyal fans you could ever find, being not being biased because I'm one of them, but some of the most loyal,
True.
passionate fans who have been
It's true.
heartbroken one too many times.
That's right. It's true. No, first of all, let me just say, yeah, the fans having played for 4 different teams and seeing the fan base. Tampa was great. I didn't know they could get better than that until I got to St. Louis, and so the fan base in St. Louis, top notch. There's a reason why it was always voted when I was around one of the tops, or if not the one of the top sports town in America. And it's a shame that they don't have a team. Look, I get it. The Rams were originally LA's team, and they've kind of gone home. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. But man, they got to find a way to get another team in St. Louis because between the Cardinals and the Rams, to get heartbroken multiple times for a base that was that loyal is sad. But to back to your question though, so listen, you got to remember. I was an undrafted free agent coming out of college. I had a really good career at college. I finished second all time in career sacks there at Penn State. When I left, I've been knocked down by a couple of really good players since then. I'm probably fifth or sixth now. But I was myself and my teammate Lou Benfatti, first 2 all Big Ten players in the history of our school because we had never been in the Big Ten until my senior year. So I'm proud of that. But I was undrafted. And, we know the average career of a player is just over 3 years. But when you look at just undrafted players, I keep saying this, and one day I'm going to do it. I need to find out, I need to reach out to the league, reach out to the Players Association to find out what the average is when you drill down to just undrafted players. I guarantee you there's less than one. I guarantee it's point something because when you're undrafted, you might have 1, maybe 2 players a year on average. And I would say probably 1 on average. If you look at a 20-year span of any team at any moment, just take any 20-year span. My guess is in those 20 years, they probably kept 20 undrafted players. And you remember, they draft at least 7, sometimes 10 players a year. And so then you bring in another 8 to 10 free agents, undrafted free agents, right? And so you're at the lowest part of the totem pole. You're at the bottom. Most of us are viewed as bag holders during training camp. And so, to start there and to fight and claw my way from being on the practice squad, cut twice, to reeling off 11 straight years after my first year, I got cut, was out of the league, and then reeled off 11 straight after that. It is unbelievable. It's against all odds. It's incredible. And, I learned how to play the game in Tampa. I got schooled by the best. But then when I got to St. Louis and I was coached by an unbelievable staff in St. Louis, and Bill Kolar was my D-line coach, and he pulled out the most effort out of me that could ever be pulled out. And so the knowledge I brought to him, and ironically, he was my coach my rookie year. I started in Atlanta as an undrafted player, didn't make the roster with him, was on the practice squad, but he was my coach then. And he pushed me from 2001 to 2005 and got the best out of me. And so I played my best then. And so St. Louis got the best version of me. And I'm really happy about that because I had great teammates. I really saw how unselfish you can be even and be great players. To come in that locker room and the Hall of Famers are just unreal. When you look at Orlando Pace and Kurt Warner, Isaac Bruce, and you look at Aeneas Williams, and it's just the list goes on and on. Marshall Faulk, and then Torrey Holt's going to get in. And those are all Hall of Fame guys. And we talk about
Yeah.
unselfish guys who treated everybody with respect. Boy, it just was amazing to be a part of all of that. The entire culture Mike Marsh created of just having no limits. And he had me so confident in myself. I was playing beyond my talent. And so it just was an amazing thing to be a part of. And so to be thought of in that way with all of those great players, it just makes me feel unbelievable. All the hard work, I finally could say, I can play this game. I was a pretty good player. Wasn't great by any stretch. But I was a pretty good player. And yes, had some impactful moments off the field. And I had a few on the field too I can brag about.
You definitely had something that, in a way, is the most important trait. Well, besides the strength, we get that, but the passion,
Yeah.
the heart, that is something you definitely had. And yeah, those teams. I mean, I remember, you had guys like Tino Samoa, you got Adam Archuleta. I mean, even when Kevin Carter was still there, Grant Wistrom, my dad's all-time favorite player on the Rams, Grant Wistrom,
Yeah,
right
he was
there.
great. He was great.
Loved him, and
Yeah.
Leonard Little and all those guys. And I remember you'd be doing plenty of radio work after games. You would be with Steve Savard, or you'd be with Jim Hannafin. You'd be doing all kinds of, and God rest Jim Hannafin's soul. I love the guy, miss him dearly.
Oh my goodness.
One of the nicest but most badass guys
Yes.
I could ever have. I will ever meet. I
And
absolutely loved him.
the best storyteller, man. I'm just telling you, if you had an opportunity to sit and listen
Yep.
to a story being told by Jim Hannafin, you got told by the best, bro. I'll tell you that right now.
One of my favorites was when I actually one time talked with him about Lawrence Phillips, and he had told me I asked him, I was like, so Jim, you were around with when Lawrence Phillips was a part of the Rams and everything, and a lot of us know how it turned out.
Right.
Complete catastrophe. And I asked him, I was like, so what were your thoughts on him? And he goes, talented kid, but dumb as a pile of rocks.
Listen, you know what? I talked to Isaac Bruce about him because he's fascinating to me too. I talked to Wilbert Montgomery, the running back coach. Talked to him about him. And apparently this dude, look, I watched him play in college. Apparently this dude, Lawrence Phillips, was unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
I mean, Wilbert compared him favorably to Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what? He's like, I'm telling you. He's like, Todd, this guy was unbelievable, but he just couldn't stay out of his own way. And
nope.
it's sad. You see stories like this, unfortunately, all too often. And he is a product of his environment, and I'm sure he grew up in a home that was probably tough on him. And it's unfortunate how that turned out. But yeah, man, Henny was the greatest, man. You talking about when the world lost him, man. But but the thing about Jim Hannafin and a lot of coaches who are great, he's going to live on through all of us. Like he touched you. You telling stories about Jim Hannafin, right? And look how young you are, and he touched you, and all the players he coached. And he was an offensive line coach. He didn't coach me, but he was on the staff, and the impact he had on me. Just having conversations with him and talking about the old days and all the players that he's seen come and go and what made him great. So guys like that, that's what I aspire to. If I can just impact enough people, man, you can live on forever, because at the end of the day, these values that you impart, whether it was intentional or sort of it happened through osmosis, these values get passed on to other generations through the people you touch. And that's really what it's all about, man. Because like you said, I mean, your line you get, listen, the clock is ticking, man. And that clock is going to go off. It's going to ring. I don't know when it's going to go off for me, and I don't know what's going to go off for you, and vice versa. So Absolutely. Every day you got to attack it. And I'm just driven to be impactful. And because when it does ring and go off for me, I'm just hoping I touched enough people that they can just keep me in their memory bank and pass one or two things on that they saw me do or heard from me to the next person. And that way I just live on forever, man.
I was about to say, I was actually going to ask, like, how do you, I only had a couple more questions, and one of them was going to be, so how do you, Tyoka Jackson, want to be remembered when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I would say that as a man who dearly loves his kids, who number one job ever for me is being a father, and someone who, and you're not going to make me cry today, Jeremy. You were trying to pull some. This ain't no, this ain't no Jerry Maguire moment. So don't even try to go there. All right,
I
being a father first, that's number one, man. As a guy who really cared and loved for his kids, and then really loved people, and just wanted the best for people, period, and cared about people who were struggling, and cared about people that looked like him, and just wanted to be able to touch lives, selfishly because it made him feel good. That's good enough for me. If you can just think about those things when it came to me, that's great. And notice none of them really had anything to do about football. I love the game, and it's in my heart forever and will always be. But I just, I was an average player. I just hope I'm above average person.
Absolutely. Well, Ty, I gotta say first, you gotta make sure before you go to plug your socials so
Yeah.
the lovely fans can keep an eye on you and show that workout grind you got going.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you be like, I learned how to put up reels. Now it's over now. I didn't figure out how to put a reel up. That's when you're 50, bro, that's a big accomplishment, right? So, but yeah, people can follow me. I'm Twitter verified at Ty Knows Football, but I'm not Instagram verified. So we need to get my Instagram going, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like I saw that, I'm like, how does he not have the check mark by him?
Check, man. I don't get it. I don't know, but
I'm hoping to get a check mark on Twitter for me this year too.
So you said you need to get one?
I need to get a Twitter check mark this year, man.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. And the content you putting out on a regular basis, you need to get that for real. Like they need to recognize. So, but yeah, check me out on Ty Knows Football, man, on both of those two. Stop by, say what's up, man. Love to talk sports, love to talk about what's going on in life, man. Just want to keep it positive. I like to learn. Got a new workout. Holler at me, man. Show me the workout. Let me see. Put it on tape. Let me check it out, man. Trying to get these arms bigger. I'm a man. I'm trying to always get these arms bigger, man. This belly flatter. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm definitely trying to get the belly flatter too.
Right,
man.
But
I always keep the grind going.
Yeah, man. So yeah, check me out on Twitter and Instagram for sure.
Well, Tyoka, it has been an absolute pleasure. This has been so much fun. So great having you on. I'm hoping we can do this again soon. I know you were like, I guess we'll be on, but I know deep down you enjoyed it.
I saw I was early too. I was ready for you, man. Because again, I'm proud of you, man. I remember back when you were just a little kid, man, getting started, and here you are. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Get me emotional.
Right. And look, man, don't forget to check me out, man. I do college football games, ESPN Plus.
On Big Ten Network, yeah. I see your stuff.
No, ESPN, Big Ten Network, that's ancient news, man. And I loved it there. Don't get me wrong. They treated me great at the Big Ten Network. Would love to come back and do games there one day, maybe. But right now, I'm with the worldwide leader, man. Doing a lot of MAC games, doing college football.
Yeah, so, I've seen it with ESPN.
Yeah, you can check me out there. You get that ESPN app, man. You can look it up, check me out, find the games, and tune in, man. Because I just love calling games. That's my next deal. I'm grinding from the bottom there too, just like I did in the league. I'm gonna grind my way up, and hopefully, eventually, end up on ESPN Saturday night, that game Saturday during the day. So yeah, but it's a labor of love, man. So I'm doing a lot of MAC games. A lot of great players come out of the MAC conference. A lot of great football being played. I also do FCS playoffs. A lot of great players coming out of FCS as well. But that playoff format they have is a lot like the NCAA tournament in basketball. Very intense. I've done some D2 and D3 playoffs too, man. So it's been a lot of fun over the years. I'm just gonna keep grinding doing that too. But yeah, check me out. During the fall, doing those games on ESPN. So
I'll definitely be looking forward to it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to have on the show Tyoka Jackson, and I look forward to when we can do this again soon. And I'll definitely talk to you later. Okay, buddy?
Definitely, Jeremy. Thanks, man.
You have yourself a wonderful night. Okay, stay blessed.
Yeah, you too. Everybody out there do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, folks, what an amazing interview. He's a fine player, but an even greater person. And I thank you all for sticking through the whole show, listening wherever. I Hope you can now notice I got the Rams pillow in the back, and I think that's pretty awesome. But no, I am so grateful to have him on. I know I want, in a way, I was, how do I word it? I want to see you get that emotional stuff out. So I was thankful for that. But now it's also time to get some plugs in. Be sure to follow Interstate 70 Sports Media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Follow Roundabout Sports on Facebook. Also, I-70 Sports Media is on YouTube as well. Don't forget to check out Talking Dynasty with Adam Frex, usually on Thursday nights on Interstate 70 Sports Media. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to Luke Roberts, who will be our guest next week. Luke Roberts been in the wrestling business for, well over 35 years. One of the hardest working and underrated guys in the entire business. And for those that are talking about me being where I'm at, it would not be possible. I cannot emphasize it enough. It could not be possible without Luke Roberts and all the hard work he has done and helping be there just along the ride. It means so much to me. And also, I want to put this up here, or I guess down there at the bottom of the screen, the National Suicide Hotline. It's available 24/7, 365 if you're going through that type of struggle. It's 1-800-273-8255. And I want you to know you're never alone. There's always someone out there who loves you. I love all of you. I thank you so much for tuning in this evening. This was an interview I dreamed of for so long. And for you all to tune in with me while I make a dream come true is nothing short of a blessing. So with that, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading. This is Jeremy Karp wishing you all a wonderful night.